Hello. So, the first question I chose to answer was discuss the importance of workplace and professional communication. As you consider information presented in this week's chapter, please compare what the authors argue with your own professional experiences. How have you seen written communication succeed and fail in your own professional life? My professional life is very limited, if I'm being honest, but so one thing I did get from the chapter is they talked a lot about how important written communication is in the business world today, and explained all the different forms, which I was surprised how many forms there were. But in my limited experience, I haven't had any extremely positive or negative encounters with written communication. Very limited the number of encounters I've had, anyways. The one comment I will make is that it's a lot more difficult and complicated, I feel, to communicate with written communication than face to face, just because it's a lot easier to misread someone's emotions if you're just reading what they've typed on a piece of paper, if that makes sense. The only form of written communication that I can really relate to that I do on a regular basis is texting, and that's kind of where I get the trouble thing from, because there's certain times where you're texting certain people and you don't really talk to them a whole lot, so their text, you may misread it and they're like, no, I didn't mean it like that. Or you may send a text and the person misreads it and they're like, hey, what do you mean by that? And you're like, no, that was all in good heart, you know what I mean? Someone will take it the wrong way. So I think that's where written communication can be a little troublesome in that way. I think, just piling on to that, the tone that, if I was to talk here and I was to be like, hey, how are you doing? Or I'd be like, how are you doing, right? So you can't really convey that through writing as well as you can in face-to-face communication. So that's that. The second question, identify at least two types of written communication common in your field or the field you hope to enter upon completing your Bachelor of Applied Science. How does the text mirror and diverge from your experience of how these types of memos, letters, etc. are written and used in the workplace? So I don't really know what I want to do yet after I get my bachelor's degree. But two of the many options that I have right now are, one, either starting my own business, doing something that I like to do, or taking over my grandpa's business. And what my grandpa does is he sells services, repairs, and certifies fire extinguishers and overhead commercial hood systems. So most of you probably don't know what that is, but basically put the fire out, and then commercial hood systems are in restaurants, typically over cooking equipment, and if it gets too hot, it puts the fire out on the cooking equipment. So he and my grandma have owned this business for almost 25 years, and they've ran it all themselves the whole time. My grandma does a lot of the book work and the sending and the communication. So one way they would communicate is with email. They do that a lot with sending quotes or receiving emails about possible inquiries to do business with people. And so I think that the things that they talked about in the email section of the text, and how one of the things that stuck out to me, this wasn't in the email section but just kind of in the written communication section, was that that's a permanent that's always there when you send it. So if you say something bad or if you are rude to a customer that way, they can always hold that against you, to where in face-to-face communication, unless they have a recording of you saying it, you can't really do that. The other thing is probably a business letter. Sometimes I know that they have to send out late notices on payments, or the same thing, quotes for a project that someone is wanting them to do. I know that they use letters for that, and so that is one way that I'd have to use that if I were to end up taking over their business. And yeah, that's that. Thanks.